A new heart also will I give you, and a new spirit will I put within you. And I will take away the stony heart out of your flesh, and I will give you a heart of flesh. And I will put my spirit within you, and cause you to walk in my statutes. And you shall keep my judgments and do them. And you shall dwell in the land that I gave to your fathers, and you shall be my people, and I will be your God. I will also save you from all uncleanliness, and I will call for the corn, and it will increase it, and lay no famine upon you. And I will multiply the fruit of the tree, and the increase of the field. They should receive no more reproach of famine among the heathen. Then shall you remember your own evil ways, and your doings that were not good, and shall loathe yourselves in your own sight for your iniquities, for your abominations. First, we've all read about the new heart. I'm not going to underscore that part, but I want to underscore a few things that happens in the new heart, and those are the telltale signs. And one of the first telltale sign is, I will do this. I will cause you to walk in my statutes. So in other words, you won't do this, but He will cause you to do it. This is from God. He is the one causing you to do things so that it happens naturally. And it's the Spirit, because it says, I will put my Spirit within you and cause you. So the Spirit will cause you to obey His statutes. So in other words, these desires to do truth, that is a telltale sign that you have a new heart. And then in 31st that I was going to underscore, it says, and you shall loathe yourself in your own sight. In other words, you will have feelings that are against your old self and hating yourself how you were. And if you have that very clarity in you that I don't want that, not just with your mind, I don't want it, I don't want it, I don't want it, but you have the feeling. It says here, I will put feelings inside of you. Loathing is a feeling. It's this disgust. It is a strong feeling of disgust inside of yourself about yourself, how you used to be. That is a surely telltale sign that the Spirit of God is in you. All these people that were called out of Egypt, all of these people that lived in bondage and lived under the yoke of the Egyptians, who constantly oppressed them, who constantly belittled them, who constantly abused them. And yet, once they left, most people didn't have this feeling, this loathing of how they used to live. In fact, most of them wanted to go back. Why is that? And that is obviously an image of today, a person who was in sin, a person who was taken out of garbage that they were. And I'm talking about us now. And then life continues and you have this desire to go back. You go back and everyone, whoever goes back to the exact same thing that they came from. It's not something new. If somebody used to be a fornicator, then they get freed and they rejoice, and then time goes on and they fall back into it. Into that same thing. Why does that happen? And in Peter it's written that those who do that, the second time could be worse than the first. And he reminds us of the saying that says, surely the saying is right, that a washed pig goes back to its previous dirt. What happened to the Jews is not something that just happened to the Jews. This is exactly the same thing that happens to the saints. Those who've been freed from the bondage, who've been freed from the old, who have a new heart, and yet, they return back. Why does that happen? The answer is very benign, very simple. Not benign, very superficial. It is extremely, extremely superficial. And yet it's so deeply, deeply spiritual. What happens? Notice, on the example of the Jews, spiritually, as a nation, as a as other people, as these Egyptians were treating them, that was obviously a spiritual phenomenon. And that's what wore them tired. And of course it manifested itself in the flesh by they were whipping them, they were slaves. But really the bondage was the fact that their condition was slavery. But by flesh, they had meat, garlic, onions. They had food. And that is what they remembered. They didn't remember the spiritual mess that they were in, or the soulful mess that they were in, this bondage of sin, but they remembered the fleshly. The flesh remembered the smell. Literally, the smell of garlic, the smell of meat. That's what drew them. It's the fleshly that draws. And the spiritual becomes something far away and forgotten. Wait a minute. The flesh takes over the spiritual. That's what happens. The spirit in the heart quiets down because the soul begins to be interested in what was so interesting back then. You forget that interesting thing back then brought you misery spiritually. And those seconds of pleasure that were by the flesh caused you days and nights and months and years of angst, depression, tiredness, emptiness. But you remember, your flesh remembers, those split seconds. Because Satan is real. And he, of course, is not interested in reminding you of the bad. Only the Spirit will remind you. But the Spirit stops talking if you stop feeding it. If my interest and the time that I spent begins to be consumed by the pleasures of the flesh, the Spirit will subside. And it will stop teaching you. And surely you will fall into it. And again, you will be just like that washed pig. Or just like those Jews who seemingly saw the magnificence, the presence, the miracles of God. And yet, they were drawn to garlic. Think about that. You just saw a fiery pillar of God Himself, and they were attracted by garlic. The juxtaposition is insane, isn't it? But that was true. It's the new heart that leads us. It's the new heart that gives us desires to do good. And Satan is a robber, and he comes in the night to steal, to kill, and to destroy, to steal this new heart, this new spirit, to steal, because once he steals that, perdition and death is surely to come, because you will immediately begin to make foolish decisions, going back to the old ways, because that's what you knew, that's what your body knew, and that's what you know. And you always go back to where you were. If somebody was an alcoholic, he goes back to being an alcoholic. Somebody was a fornicator, he goes back to being a fornicator. If somebody was proud, it goes back to being proud, but with the new vengeance, with the new. Because Satan knows that he's got very limited time, and he's going to do this with a vengeance to destroy and kill a person as soon as he possibly can. Because that person tasted the heavenly, and he might wake up. So Satan wastes no time this time. How do you know if you have a new heart? If you love the truth. If you love the truth, the Word of God, you hear it. It attracts you. It's yours. You like it. That is new. Guard that, because it can be stolen. That is what will lead you. That is the Spirit that will speak in you, that will lead you out, that will give you life. The new heart hates lies. It does not like it. The emotions, the feelings that you have in you are loathing towards what you were and what this world is all about. Simple question to always ask yourself. Do I love the truth? If I hear the truth, do I love it or do I hate it? It's such a simple test. Do I want to go back to that Egypt? Do I want to go back there? Or do I only want to go forward to the new promised land of heaven and bliss and righteousness and godliness? You know your desires better than anyone else. Only you and God knows what's deep inside your heart and what you desire. The heavenly kingdom, the new promised land, the real promised land, is a place of no oppression, of no depression, of no sickness, no evil, nothing unnatural. It's a wonderful place, ready for anyone who wants to be there, attainable for free, and those who desire go there. Forgetting the past, striving for the new and the better. That's new heart. It desires more and more and more to love and to be with God, to be farther and farther separated from this world. That's a new heart. It has desires. It has wishes. It has feelings. It loves the truth. What do you love? It's up to you. It's your choice. Pick something wonderful or pick something bad. It's a really difficult decision. Because Christ said, I give you life, I give you death. Choose one. Death has a taste. Life has a taste. Death likes short-term pleasures to your body, to literally your limbs. Life loves light, loves the truth, takes the eternity over the temporary. Life goes for the invisible. Death goes for the visible, for the sensual, soulful, sensual. Life goes for the spiritual. Different world. Love the truth, and you will live forever.